Welcome everybody. I am the air quotes comedian, the least surveilled subversive that ever existed, despite my desperate attempts to get noticed by the authorities and put on a watch list, other than the Sex Offenders Registry. And this is the Polemics podcast. Welcome. I broke into my neighbour's house the other day while they were out bowling. There I was, rooting around in their underwear drawer, which might sound vaguely erotic until you realise that my neighbour is an overweight truck driver from Milton Keynes. She's a nice lady, but personally I don't find her sexually attractive. Of course, my neighbour didn't know I was rooting around in her small straws, but if societal attitude is anything to go by, she definitely wouldn't have a problem with it, would she? Because that's what the government does, isn't it? They break into our metaphorical houses and open up our metaphorical underwear drawers and have a good old sniff, don't they? And even if they have a warrant issued by a secret court, they don't present it to us, do they? And if somehow we learn that the government has had their nose buried in our dirty skivvies, we'd be up on charges if we told anybody about it. But it's all fine, isn't it? Because we, as a society, have allowed our government to do all of this under the auspices of national security. 9/11 was a tragedy to most Americans, but the government, there they were, rubbing their tiny hands with absolute glee. They had written the Patriot Act long before some airplanes mistook a pair of towers for a landing strip. A Patriot Act that was ushered in even before Rudy Giuliani exploited the aftermath of the tragedy for a photo opportunity. Yes, smile dear viewer, because there's a good chance that you are being filmed by the billions of cameras that occupy our streets. It's the paparazzi for the Orwellian age. Any notion that we should have private lives without intrusion from the government or private corporations is seen as contrary to the interests of Big Brother. Well, they say, don't they, you must be doing something shady if you've got something to hide. Oh, really, I respond. In that case, why does the government lose its shit when whistleblowers expose its illegal activities? Why is the government utilising a high-resolution imaging satellite in synchronous orbit in order to film my bare ass as I run drunk and naked down Lincoln Avenue? What, I ask, does my hairy arse crack have to do with countering an international terrorist threat? Why did the US government bridle when that footage emerged of US soldiers in Apache attack helicopters murdering Reuters journalists in Baghdad? Could it possibly be that the war crimes perpetrated by the US military is something they'd rather not have exposed to the public, unlike me and my hairy arse crack? Yeah, think on that for a minute. The war crimes, not my hairy arse crack. Actually, I do apologise for trying to get you to imagine such a horrible image. Nobody should be trying to imagine US atrocities in their mind's eye. Of course, it's not just the government spying on us, is it? No, it's private corporations too. The move from a cashless society to one of convenient plastic cards wasn't about saving trees, was it? No, it wasn't. It was about monitoring the embarrassing shit we buy at the supermarket. You can't make inferences from my eclectic purchases at my local grocery store, can you, Visa or MasterCard? Or can you? I might be buying icy hot spray, a watermelon, a fruit corer, KY jelly and a ball gag for perfectly normal reasons and have no illusions about it. Not only do they know all about your purchases, but they can extrapolate all kinds of things from that data. Like that time some woman stopped buying wine and unpasteurised cheese, instead opting to drink moisturising lotion and eat cotton balls, and suddenly she became the recipient of adverts for baby products before she'd even told her husband the bad news about being pregnant. No doubt after publishing this podcast I'll be inundated with adverts for hedge trimmers, to take care of my hairy arse crack. Black & Decker hedge trimmers. Powerful solutions for hairy arse cracks. It doesn't help that these days we're falling over ourselves to open our metaphorical underwear drawers and putting our collective lingerie on display for all to see. Social media, as we all know but don't seem to fucking care, mines us for our data and sells it to third parties. Data like hobbies, political leanings, whether pineapple has a place on pizza, and our favourite brand of ball gags. I mean, when you sign up for the social medias, have you ever actually looked at the terms and conditions? pertaining to Limited Liable Corporation Social Media, a subsidiary of Global Data LLC. Everything posted on Facey Twat shall not, we pinky swear, be sold to third-party corporate entities for the purposes of targeting your good self with shitty adverts that you have no fucking interest in. By clicking on the OK button, you hereby agree to forfeit any notion of privacy whatsoever, because we will cooperate with warrantless government requests to peruse all those fluffy kitten photographs you posted and infer from them that you are in fact some kind of threat to national security and possibly a communist too. Pursuant to HR 666 Section 13 of the FCC Communications Act of 2014 subsection 9A, we basically fucking own you and everything you do, say and think. Do you agree to these terms? Also, clicking no means you also agree to these terms. There's no escape. But at least when you scroll through the 50 pages of terms and conditions, zipping right by and not noticing the one that says, "We reserve the right to kidnap and sacrifice your firstborn to the Lord of Hell, Emperor, sucker your bloodberg," at least when you scroll to the bottom of that mountain of legalese bullshit, you do have some idea that you just sold your soul for something other than rock and roll when you click on the OK button. I mean, we've become so complacent and docile that we fully expect to be filmed when we walk down the street or go shopping at Wally World. We have, as a society, pretty much given up the notion that we're entitled to privacy, not only in the public sphere, but in our private ones as well. So with that in mind, I'm going to leave you with this thought. Do you think that when you're in the clothes shop, shopping for clothes, and maybe a nice new ball gag, that when you go into the changing room that you have privacy, by which I mean you're not being filmed? Yeah, think again, bucko. I'm not making this up, and I can't stress that enough. In the majority of US states, it's perfectly legal to film people in changing rooms. But hey, if you're not doing anything wrong, then you've got nothing to hide, right? I can't help but think about it though. I imagine little Emily Gunther looking at her laptop and rubbing her magic bean at what she's watching, but little does she know that her laptop's webcam is streaming her image to her overly protective mum, who's naked in a Target dressing room and suddenly had a notion to check up on what her daughter was doing. But little does Emily's mum realise that she's being surveilled by Frankie Marks, the store detective, who's busy fapping away as he drools over Emily's mum's hot bod. Frankie Marks, who is oblivious to the fact that he's being watched on CCTV by the store manager, Fiona Smith-Clydesdale, who is frantically dildoing her love hole at the sight of Frankie Marks knocking one off. Fiona Smith-Clydesdale, who is unaware that a quality control inspector at the corporate headquarters is fingering his arsehole in the quest for orgasm, as he watches Fiona dildoing herself, as she watches the store detective grease his pole, as he watches Emily's mum's look of horror and disgust, her bosom's heaving as she watches her daughter rub one out, the quality control inspector at the corporate headquarters fingering his butthole, not knowing that he is being watched by Diana Friedman of the FBI, whose knickers are around her ankles as she pleasures herself at the sight of some peon playing with his chocolate log dispenser at Target corporate headquarters. Special Agent Friedman busy wanking off, not knowing that she is being filmed by Alfred Johnson of the CIA, his cock fully engorged as he strokes off to the sight of Special Agent Friedman's quim being masturbated. Alfred Johnson, completely lacking any notion that some hackers have compromised his laptop's webcam and that he himself is being watched by little Emily Gunther, who finds his CIA cock especially arousing. Welcome everybody to the Panopticon Circle Jerk. I am your ringmaster, the air quotes comedian, who is watching you right now. So I'll know, won't I, if you don't hit that dislike button. In fact, I'll have video proof of it. So this being the end of this episode of the Polemics, hit the dislike button and bugger off.